We just upgraded our lifestyles massively. My family have just picked up this van. It's a luxury 5-seater adventure van that lets us go off grid and explore the wild like never before. In this video, I'm going to show you what we put inside it, why we put inside it, but also some of the pros and cons that we've already noticed after a short time of using it. So watch on and see if you could build your luxury van to help your family upgrade their life. So before I take you on a tour, I just want to tell you why we got this van, all right? We're going to use this van as a base camp for all the adventures that we do. It allows us to go further for longer. We can park up, go for hikes, stay out in the woods for a few days, come back to the van, refresh, and get going again on another adventure. So let me show you what we've put on this to allow us to do that and have a great time. All right, so we've got a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, all right, 2500 170 long wheelbase. And the reason we went for the Sprinter is just because it's a diesel, super reliable, and the cab's quite luxury, so it's a nice drive, all right? Some of the things we put on the exterior here, we put a front bumper. The reason I put the bumper on there, honestly, is if we hit something in the backcountry and we were driving down the lane and we hit a deer or a moose, at the end of the day, we live in Canada, right? I don't want to write this van off because all the stuff that we've put inside it is really hard to replace, and it took us 5 months to get this built already, so we don't have to wait that again. These lights, supposedly, we haven't tested them yet, but they're supposedly really good in the snow, all right? So the yellow light's really good in the snow, that's why we put that on there. And we also have the winch on the front, all right, just in case we got stuck. We have the 12,000 pound warm winch, and that's gonna help us get out. Are we gonna use that realistically? I hope not. All right, but if we do come into a situation where we do get stuck somewhere, then at least we can help ourselves out as best as possible. Some other little things, you know, adding the front guard here just makes it look a little cooler, but also any stone chips and rocks and stuff like that just protects the paint a little bit at the front. And then the other thing up at the front here is we have a roof rack on, and there's a big light bar there. And that one again it's a 50,000 lumen light bar, and the reason I got that added is just so that if we are again on some dark logging roads, you know, traveling BC in the middle of the night, at least I can see the road when I'm driving, all right, and I keep it as safe as possible, right? I have my family in here, I have 3 kids, 2 dogs. I don't want to be crashing off-road, right? So moving around, because I do plan on going off-road, all right, we got some good upgrades to the suspension. So we got, it's a Van Compass suspension kit in there with some Black Rhino wheels and some pretty knobbly hardcore tires there. And again, the reason we got them is just so that if we go off-road, we want to make sure that we're capable and we can drive and we're not going to get ourselves stuck, all right, and hopefully we don't have to use that winch. Over on the side here, we do have an awning up at the top, all right, so that awning is going to give us some shade. It's going to be a nice place that in the sun, in the summer, we can get out of the heat, and especially with the family and the dogs, we just get a little bit of respite there. It's also moderately good for rain too, so if you want to put it up overnight and leave some of your stuff up there, that's what we do with our awnings as we've been traveling quite a bit. So moving over to further down to the back, I got these, I don't even know what they're called, flare spacers or whatever. But the biggest thing for that is it just makes the bed longer, all right? So we can sleep what they call east to west, and it's 6'4", which just means that I can stretch out and not have a problem when I'm sleeping in there. Otherwise, I think it would be just slightly under 6 foot, and I would have to bend. We have a shore power hookup here, which is gonna help us charge our batteries when we're at home, or if we were at a campground, for instance, where we had some power, we could pretty much be unlimited. I will go into our power system later on and what we've got set up there, because that's also pretty cool. So as you can see on the back, we got some goodies up on the back as well. So this gearbox, we use this for all of our outdoor gear. We put our chairs in there, we put some wood in there sometimes, all of our dog stuff. And then we've got 2 bike racks up on here, and these honestly are the best bike racks that I've ever used. The way that it attaches the wheels in there as opposed to being a frame bike rack is really good. I'm really happy with how they've turned out. Spare tire, all right, so because these tires are so big, you actually can't put these underneath the van where the original spare tire would be. So you have to put it on the back. So we combine that with the Owl van's ladder as well. All right, so we've got a couple ways to be able to get up on the roof. So moving a little bit over onto this side, the only other thing we've got on this side is we've got another one of the flare space spacers, and we've also got our second ladder. And on both sides of the van, we do have the full step. We got the full step the whole way along on this side, even though you only really need it for the driver's side, just to make it uniform. Some other things that got put on the van that weren't on is windows on both sides, all right? So these windows have got bug screens in them. They can open up fully. This was just a full door panel, so having those windows just makes it nicer when you're inside. You got a bit more visibility in there. All right, so our roof setup, pretty cool, pretty unique. We had to get this custom set up. So the rooftop bed here from Roof Nest is double bed with a nice 2-inch memory foam inside. And we needed that because we're a family of 5 and we got to be able to sleep 5. The other cool feature about what we've got up here is this walkable solar panel. So we've got 300 watts of solar here, which is huge for our electrical system. You can also see that we've got the air conditioning unit, what we call the max air fan, which we'll talk about when we go inside. And we've also got Starlink set up on here. So the way we use this van is not just for camping trips. We also use this to be able to get out of the city during the week and do a work from home. We're very happy with how this turned out because we weren't sure we were going to be able to get all of this on here. Super quick setup for the bed. All right, you've just got 4 latches that we're going to get done. And then once I've got all those 4 latches undone, it's just going to pop up. And then we have one little bar in here, and then this little pole is just going to secure that bar in place. And then we've got the roof bud set up pretty quickly. And as you can see, that's a really spacious sort of double bed area for people to sleep. I sleep up here a lot because my kids sleep downstairs in the main bed with my wife. And this is a really nice spot. Cool, so that's all the outside stuff taken care of. Let's have a look inside. The first thing that we have is just this adjustable table. All right, super cool little feature that we wanted to have so that when we're outside, we can you know, put coffee on there. My wife usually hands over the food, I put it on here, and then the kids take it and we have our camp set up, all right? So coming on into the van, the biggest challenge for us as a family of 5 was what was the seating setup gonna be? So as you can see, a large part of the front of the van is taken up by our seats, okay? So we have 3 seats at the front. All these seats need to be safe, all right? So they need to have a seat belt. They need to be connected to the chassis so that they're actually road legal. So this double seat also turns into a single bed. It's a kid's bed, all right? You probably don't want to sleep in there if you're my size, but this also switches around so that we can create our living environment. But that was a huge part for us. We had to design that layout, which affected a lot of the rear part of the layout. In terms of storage here, you can see there's a lot of different cupboards. So starting from the front of the van, okay, we have an overhead shelf. This is actually the table leg, and then we've got all of our window covers. So everything that covers the windows up, which helps for privacy, but also it helps to keep the heat out if parked up in the sun. This is my wife's cabinet, this is my cabinet. That's all we have for our clothing. We usually actually organize these in little travel bags, all right, so we can get as much as we possibly can in there when we're traveling. And then obviously you are limited in a van like this with how much stuff you can actually take with you. Into the kitchen area. So the first thing you'll see up top is our control panel, all right? So here we've got, this tells us how much batteries we've got. Really cool system, okay? It tells us based on what we're doing right now. We've got a day and 12 hours left in our charge because we've got all the lights on and we've got no solar coming in because we're in the shade. It's kind of cool to see what that does. This is our heating system, so I can turn the heater on, I can turn the hot water on. Again, we'll talk about some of this stuff when we get around to the back of the van, and then all my different light switches, my pump to get rid of my water, and my pump to turn on my water as well. We have an induction cooktop, all right, so the induction burner is something we use a lot, all right, we cook a lot of our meals on there, breakfast, lunch, dinner. We also have an oven in the back here as well, so that's another place that we're gonna cook from, all right, and we're gonna get a lot of our meals from there. And then we have a pretty large countertop already, all right. We had this sink insert so that we can get a bit more, and obviously you can leave your cups and stuff in there so they don't rattle around off the top if they need to be washed. We've got a drinking filtered water faucet, and we've also got a regular faucet that you would do. And then, as I mentioned, we got a decent cooktop in here, but we needed to get more All right, so we had the extender so that we could extend up. We use this a lot as well in our dining. All right, when we configure these chairs, I'll show you the setup of that and how we use this as well there. The other part of our kitchen that was super important is because we want to travel and travel far and long, we needed a big fridge. All right, so we've got a 150-liter fridge here. So this is a freezer set up at the top here. We've got the fridge in there, and then we've got also more fridge space at the bottom as well in there. Great thing about our van builder, which I didn't actually mention, but we're in Toronto and our van builder's in Ancaster. It's called Vancini Conversions. So one thing that they did really good that we didn't really give them too much prompting on is all the storage. So we told them what we wanted and what we needed, but they took care of a lot of the storage. All right, so wherever they've been able to fit drawers, they've put drawers. All right, and we've been able to get quite a lot of our gear in here. We're still settling in and figuring out where everything goes in this, but it's a pretty cool setup with just how much storage we do have in here. All right, with all the things that we need as we travel. This little spot here, this is actually where our heat comes from. All right, so we have a diesel heater. It's a Rixon's heating system, which I can show you more at the back and explain how it all works, but that's where we're gonna get all of our heating from. And the final piece that we have inside really is our shower. As you can see, this is a huge footprint in the van, but for us, it was very important. We have a couple of young kids, and then we have a 10-year-old as well. And being able to shower in the van is something that we just wanted to be able to do. I hate going to sleep dirty if I've been out, you know, hiking and camping and stuff. And this is a really good shower. I was a little skeptical after we had a trailer, how the shower was, because in our trailer it was pretty average, but the power that comes out of this thing is really good. The water temperature is great, and it's just a really good addition that we're glad we put in, and it's worth the space that it uses. So our bed setup, as I mentioned outside, we've got these flare space, so I'm just under 6 feet, and I can lie in this pretty nicely, and I'm gonna get in this pretty good. All right, you wouldn't want to be much taller than me if you want to be able to stretch out, but that's what we got those flares for. So it's a nice little bed, very, very comfortable. I think they do some kind of custom mattress so that it fits in all of the areas. We do have an air conditioner at the back here. The only reason we got the air conditioner is because we have dogs. And the dogs, if they're gonna be here by themselves inside in the summer, we wanna make sure that they're taken care of by that. What we use the most is this Max Air fan. All right, so when we turn this thing on, that's got 2 modes, sucks the air from inside and takes it outside. And then it's got a regular fan where it sucks it from the inside and brings it in. We've found best that if we have that front door open or one of these windows that's at the side, all right, so these slide out, it's gonna pull air right past me here, and I'm already getting that breeze. So it's actually a way better setup than the air conditioning. And the other thing I'll talk about with the electrical is the air conditioning uses a lot of batteries. So a big thing that we needed to be able to do is create some kind of zoning within the van, right? I don't know how big these are, like 70 square feet or something, but it's really hard to separate things. We actually have one zone on the roof, which we've already showed you, the rooftop bed. Our eldest can go up there, she can hang out, and she can kind of get away from the younger kids. We wanted this bed to be a zone so that when we put the kids to bed at night, we can kind of get this blocked off and we can put something up here. It's just a very simple design, but what it allows us to do is it blocks that off so that anything that we're doing out here from a light perspective, me and my wife can hang out at the front and they're gonna stay asleep. We usually put some white noise on something for them in bed and you can kind of separate it. So you can make these small spaces work a lot better than they look like it from the outside. So something else that I added recently, we actually have a beautiful flooring here. So underneath this carpet, right, it's a really nice sort of marine grade flooring. The biggest problem with it is when we're driving, our dogs slip all over the place. So you'd have our dogs flying up and down here as we're driving. So I actually cut this myself a few days ago, and on our last trip, they were able to lie on that and it was pretty good. Just a cheap carpet that we could probably, you know, get several different versions of as we go down, but it also protects our floors. And then the other thing that we didn't do in this van, which a lot of people do, when you get the Rixon's heating system, there's an option to put a heated floor in as well. We didn't do the heated floor. They're not the cheapest of things, and everything you keep adding on just keeps driving up the price. So we decided that for us, the heated floor was not a good thing, but adding the carpet just makes that floor a lot warmer, especially when you're waking up in the morning if it's cold outside. The final little part of the van really is what have we got in the rear. So opening up these big back doors, they're quite heavy. We have, firstly on the back of the door, we have our MOLLE system. So we actually have coming a bunch of pockets and various straps that we can put tools and things like that on there, so that we have a bit more storage for some of the smaller items that we need to grab on a regular. This is our drawer, so you can actually see this is where our dogs sleep. When we're traveling, all of our stuff goes in here, whatever we need, and we've got a nice pull-out drawer. All right, so most of these are rated to like 500 pounds, and the pull-out just means we can, you know, put all of our gear in here from this side, fill it all up nicely. The kids' bikes usually go in here because we can only get 2 bikes at a time. And then at night time, the dogs are gonna come and sleep under here, and they've got a separate space from us at the front as well. As I mentioned inside, you know, creating those zones just helps everyone kind of get away from each other in a larger family. So we got 5 people in here and 2 dogs, all right? One of the dogs is 90 pounds. So it can get tight. Other outside things, this is where we fill up our water. Okay, underneath that is also our outdoor shower. All right, so in here we just plug a shower system. We've got hot water, cold water, which is really good. And as I mentioned inside a little bit, we have the Rixon's heating system. When this turns on, it's gonna heat up the van from a diesel heater, but it's also gonna be a part of our hot water heating. So we don't actually have a separate hot water tank. Our water tank is 110 liters. And once that Rixon system is actually on, we just have almost hot water on demand. We get about 3 to 5 minutes of hot water, and then it just needs a bit of time to heat up again, but we can keep that going pretty good. There was 2 things that I was worried about most when I was designing this van and when we were building this van. One of them was how much water were we going to consume. So that 110 liters usually lasts us about 2 to 3 days, and that's with everybody showering. We've only gone on a couple of trips so far that have been 2 or 3 days long, and we've showered every night, and we've not had to fill up water, which has been quite cool. That just means if we conserve that water, I think we'll get about 7-8 days with just regular dishwashing, regular drinking water, and not using the shower as heavily as we have. The second thing that I was worried about was our electricity. How much electricity do we have, and how long can we be off grid for? Because that's the whole reason we got this van. We had a trailer. The trailer limited us to campgrounds. We didn't like going to campgrounds all the time because there was a lot of noise, there was a lot of light, and there was people who were just there more to party than actually enjoy the outdoors. So our electrical system is a big one. We have 990 amp hours of battery. All right, so that's actually stored in the back here. So you can see these are our batteries. We've got 3 of them, three times 330 amp hour batteries. We were told it's some of the biggest, and from a lot of the research that I did, there's not many bigger electrical systems in these vans, all right, because obviously these batteries are heavy. They also take up a lot of space. I was hoping we were going to get 4 or 5 days off grid. If we're using the van heavily, and I mean heavily as in we're using the induction cooktop, we're using the cooker, we're only getting about 2 days out of this. And that's something we have to kind of figure out a little bit, because for us to be able to go longer trips where we don't have to plug in power, as soon as we have to plug in power, that means we're stopped somewhere that's got lots of people, and we don't necessarily want that to happen. So something that we do have on board for our electrical system, we have a 3000 watt inverter, which allows us to run quite a lot of things at the same time. So we can plug in, we can run our oven, we can run our cooktop at the same time. We wouldn't be able to do our AC as well, but we could do quite a few things. We also have a secondary alternator. Now this is where we made a bit of a mistake when building the van. We got a 50 amp hour secondary alternator. So with almost 1000 amperes of power and a 50 amp hour, basically what that means is when we're driving, it's going to give us 50 amp hours per hour of driving. So we need 20 hours of driving to go from 0% to 100%. There's actually a 250 amp hour alternator that I think we're going to have to make an upgrade for, because 2 to 3 hours of driving is going to get us 50 to 75%. If you're doing a longer trip, then you're going to probably be driving 2 to 3 hours at a time, and you're going to get full battery. Combine that with the 300 watts of solar we've got on, and I think that will have us a better setup, and that will allow us to be off grid a lot longer and go a lot further. So a couple of less exciting things are what we have in the cab. I showed you our lights outside, so we've got our switches for our lights here, we've got our switches for our air compressor, and also some on the other side as well. But if you look at this, it's not the typical van cab. Going into to get the van, a lot of the dealers, the way that they do it in terms of the builders of these custom vans, you purchase the van from Mercedes or from Ford, because Ford Transits are also popular. You don't just want to go and get one of the typical cargo vans, because usually you're going to have the 3 seats across the front. You're not going to have these captain's chairs, which is what you want to be able to swivel, as we showed when you're setting up your dining area. You also get a nicer steering wheel usually when you go for those options. And at the end of the day, this is more of a longer drive-in rather than getting in here from a construction site. So you want it to have a little bit more of a car feel. With the upgraded suspension that's on it, the wheels, the ride height, and this nice cab setup, it's beautiful to drive. It doesn't feel like a chore. We actually get really pretty good gas consumption as well, which makes it better. So everything's not costing a lot when you go on bigger trips. But yeah, nice comfortable cab, super important, but also it takes a little bit of shopping around to find something like this in the dealerships. So I hope that's give you a bit of insight as to why we built this van and how we built this van. I watched a lot of video tours, mainly from the builders themselves, talking about all the different things that they've put on the van, but they don't necessarily say why, and they don't necessarily say how they're going to be used. So for us so far, we've had this for a month. We've been on 3 weekend trips, and we've done a few day trips in this thing. I absolutely love this thing. It's been a game changer for our life. I come and sit in here sometimes and just do work, all right, because we have the Starlink on top. Just sitting outside with the van doors open, it's beautiful, they're amazing. The biggest hang up that I've had so far is trying to figure out that electrical system. So I think we're gonna get that fixed before we go on some bigger trips. And what we're kind of doing this year, we have a couple of week-long trips that we're gonna go out to Quebec, and we're gonna get to test this even further. I'm really looking forward to taking it off-road, all right, so we can use all the suspension and all the different things that we do have on board. Something I didn't mention that we do have is we have an air compressor on board, which allows us to air our tires up and air down our tires. That's pretty common. It would take me a couple of hours to pump that tires back up with the size of them if I was just using a hand pump. I'm very excited to kind of go further and farther. And then the real big thing next year is we want to take a 6-month trip around Canada. So we're going to live in this thing for 6 months, and that's going to be really cool. If you've enjoyed this video, you should like and subscribe, because you're going to get to see all of the adventures that we're going to do in this. You'll get to meet my family, and you'll get to see how we live in this. And who knows, maybe it'll inspire you to upgrade your life too.